Well, Africa's largest media company, Naspers, posted a 33% rise in first-half earnings, helped by a strong performance at its pay TV and internet units. Core headline earnings per share came in at 860 cents versus 648 cents previously. The company has, however, cautioned that full-year profit could be hit by the increasing cost of sport on television. We're joined on the line now by CEO Koos Bekker. Koos, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Let's just start on the internet growth story. And your associates in Brazil, China and Russia have obviously impacted significantly positively on your results. Is this where your story goes from here on out in terms of the growth potential going forward?
Hi, Bronwyn. Yes, we were somewhat lucky in having invested in emerging markets, and I think there was little skill involved. It's simply by accident we were in the right place. When the recession struck, it mainly struck developed markets like the US and the UK and Japan. In fact, some of the markets where we are at the moment, like Brazil, feel buoyant at the moment.
Do you agree with Mohammed Al-Aaron? He's the CEO of PIMCO, and he coined the term the new normal. Of course, where we're going to see anemic growth in the developed world, and emerging markets are going to continue to dominate for some time to come. And here we're talking about potentially 2 decades out.
Ronald, it's quite difficult to call. You know, if you look historically, and I'm sure other people have commented on it, China used to be the center of the world. So take a point, 1500. Either China or India would have been the dominant force, go back to 1,000 years ago. The same, they were much bigger than any European country. So in a sense, the world is returning to a situation where Asia is the focal point of the world economy, and Europe and the US is a sideshow. So that's a long-term trend, and I think it will continue. In the short term, you can have all sorts of disturbances. The US may well at some point get out of its recession. Europe may stabilize. So I think the short term is difficult to call. The long term, undoubtedly, China, India, Brazil, Russia, these countries will be very forceful players. And many of the established Western countries like the UK or France will sink to a secondary level.
Koos, Paul Theron here. I just want to ask you a question, given the significance of Tencent in the valuations now for Naspers. Could you just describe for us the point, in your opinion, that company has reached with regard to its business model? And then perhaps also just touch on this recent developments with regard to third-party site linking, and also the scrap that they seem to be having with that internet security company?
Yes. Paul, in terms of the phase, now, China has about 1.3 billion people. Of them, let's call it 400 million are on the web. The figure is less reliable than it may appear because many people have 2 email accounts or 2 instant messaging accounts, so there's some element of double counting. But let's call it 400 million warm bodies. I think in 10 years or 15 years, I might still experience it. Basically, everyone in China will be on the web. And if you want to test it, take the cell phone market. When we started MTN in 1992 around, our business plan was 300,000 phones. Now, today, South Africa has practically a cell phone for every adult person. And I think that's what's happening with the internet, is you won't be able to file your tax return or, in fact, order your new car if you don't have internet access. So China will go to 1.3 billion or something like that internet citizens at some point in the future. The question, of course, is whether Tencent will maintain their good position in the market. There are several excellent internet companies there, Baidu, Alibaba, really competently run companies, and they all vie for market space. Tencent will have to fight it out. The 2 specific questions you alluded to, there was some sort of security debate in China between Tencent and another company. The other company is providing security, but in a way that infiltrates Tencent systems. So they pretend to give you a guard to guard against spam, but in fact it contains elements which is detrimental to Tencent. I think that spat is a little bit history now, and things are calming down. And then the second thing you allude to is that Tencent is opening their platform, much like Facebook has done, for people to write applications to. And that's an exciting new phase where you'll find all these young entrepreneurs writing programs to ride on the back of the Tencent system.
Koos, what are your thoughts on print media going forward? Just looking at your results, print media, Media24, revenue up 4%, trading profit up 10% as a result of aggressive cost cutting in that space. Given your focus on the internet, on pay TV, do you think that print is here to stay, or do you think we're going to see the rules rewritten in this space?
Ronan, I think print is very much here to stay. You know, radio took a knock when TV came in the 50s. In most countries of the world, of course, with us, it was 1975. But radio still today is a very vibrant medium, as you proved this afternoon. They just shifted their emphasis more towards news and music, and the rest fell away. I mean, when I was a kid, fiction, stories was actually on radio, as you know. I think likewise, print will find a way to cohabit with the internet, and it has to, because the internet is really poor at analyzing social trends and politics and exposing, inappropriate behavior, where print is superb. So the internet can do certain things like announce a new hurricane or give you a share price, but it's very bad at deep analysis. Therefore, you need print, and if you don't have print, I frankly don't know how an economy runs. Incidentally, there's some hopeful signs for print. It's early to call it, but I think the iPad and the new tablet generation of computers make print appear very elegant. So for the first time, it's quite a pleasure, essential pleasure almost, to read a magazine on an iPad. So print may have a second life.
That sounds interesting. In other words, print, but not delivered by dead trees. Because just as far as mail.ru is concerned, I've noted on the wires there's talk about Groupon, which is one of the group assets being looked at by Google. Is it not possible that you could, together with your partners, Mr. Milner and Mr. Finger, work out a way that all of those DST global assets and interests in those far-flung groups are incorporated in the London listing? Because there's a concern, I think, from the market's point of view, that we don't know what's in and what's in their personal portfolio.
Just to maybe describe to people who missed it, we had an interest in mail.ru, which was started as an email service, expanded to portals, expanded to games, and that was then merged into a bigger portfolio of things which also now contain some elements of e-commerce and especially social networking. So Paul is asking really whether we can bulk up further. It's certainly possible. We're not participating in the moment in discussions of that nature, but in future it may be that, DST buys something or merges in a way, but at the moment I'm not aware of that.
Of course, just finally, in your results, you mentioned that pay TV margins under pressure from the growing subscriber base and also from the increased sport content costs. Just very quickly, can you give me an indication of how much further margin pressure you expect in this arena?
Ron, it's difficult to put a number to it, and we don't give forecasts, but just the two trends. The one is we experiment a lot, and we see exciting things happening in pay TV, which require engineers to sit down and develop new applications. We need to pay them, and therefore there's an outflow on the income statement. I think the top line will continue to grow well. And then on sports costs, SuperSport is the main funder of sport all across the African continent, so we support 5 soccer leagues, including our own Premier League, and that's becoming more expensive. So we find the pressures of sport costs and technology development will probably be more forceful in the next 6 months than the past 6 months.